Welcome to 6.4. We're going to talk about reference angles. If theta is a non-quadrantal angle in standard position, the reference angle for theta is the acute angle theta r that the terminal side of theta makes with the x-axis. That just basically means this. If that's theta, then this angle to the x-axis is your reference angle. All right, so again, if we go all the way over here, theta is this big degree. Let's say it's 135 degrees. Then the reference angle is 45. We've already learned this. All right, so let's move on. Find all the reference angles. Okay, what's it take to get back to the x-axis? So 310 degrees, and just quickly show you everything. 310 degrees, this is 270. That's 90, that's 180, and that's 0. So 310 has to be over here somewhere. So the question is, what does it take to get back to the x-axis? Well, that would be 50 degrees. That's your reference angle. All right, 260 is going to be right there. So that means your reference angle to get back to 180 is going to be 80. And negative 235, going backwards, okay, so this would be also negative 180 or negative 90 and negative 270. So negative 235 has to be all the way to right here. So what is this reference angle back to negative 180? That would be negative, or I'm sorry, not negative, 45 degrees. So reference angles are never negative. They're always positive. And then negative 660. Oh, here we go. So we go around negative 360. Okay, and then 90 more is 450. 90 more is 540. 90 more is 630. So that's negative 630. And then we got to go 30 more, which means the reference angle is going to be 60. So reference angles are never negative. All right, let's keep going. Now 290. I'm going to erase this and just put a generic circle up here with the numbers here. So we'll go 90, 180, 270, and 0. And then also backwards, negative 90, negative 180, and negative 270. Okay, there you go. Now, 290 degrees, that's 20 degrees past 270, which means there's to 360 is 70 more degrees. Okay, 195 is just past 180. So 15 degrees would be that reference angle. Negative 185 is 5 degrees. 400, so we're going all the way around to 360, and we got to go 40 more past 360, all right? And that gets us back to the x-axis. 3 pi over 4, so now we're going by pi's. Remember, we have 1 pi, 3 pi over 4. So if it gives it to you in pi, then give the reference in terms of pi. So that reference is pi over 4. 4 pi over 3 is 240 degrees, which is a 60 degree reference. So we're going to say that's a pi over 3 degree reference. Okay. And again, in this case, we can use both if we're just wanting to make sure we cover our bases. Negative pi over 6 is down here. So pi over 6, or 30 degrees, is your reference angle. 9 pi over 4. So 8 pi over 4 is 2 pi. So this goes around a full circle, and then another pi over 4, or another 45 degrees. 7 pi over 4, so 1, 3, 1, 3, 5, 7. So the reference angle would be pi over 4, or 45 degrees. And 2 pi over 3 is 120 degrees, all right? So again, that's a 60 degree reference, or pi over 3 reference. And you need to be good at all of these. Negative 3 pi over 4, so 1, 3. Let's get rid of all this again. And we have negative 3 pi over 4, 1, and 3. So negative 3 pi over 4. So we have a pi over 4 reference again, or 45 degrees. Negative 23 pi over 6. Okay, so take 23 divided by 6, and that's going to be 3. and this was 3 pi, negative 3 pi, with a remainder of 5 pi over 6. Okay, 3 pi and 5 pi over 6 negatives. Okay, so 3 pi, so there's 2, 3, and another 5 pi over 6. This would be a pi over 6 reference. Let me erase that stuff there. This would be a pi over 6 reference and 30 degrees. That's what we want to look for. You want to know both. Now, 3, notice there's no degree symbol here or pi, so we're talking about radians. All right, so we can look at the radian circle again, like we did the other day. This is 3.14, this is 1.57, and 4.710. So 3 is going to be about right there. So 0.14 is your reference in terms of radians. Negative 2, so if we were to go positive, 1.57 is at the 90 degree mark. So if we go negative, we're going to go past this 4.7 mark. So this way to negative 2, and what do we have left to get to negative 3.14? Well, that'd be negative 1.14. So 1.14 references are positive. And 5.5, so 5.5 positive goes past the 4.71. Okay, all the way around, about right here. So 5.5 and all the way around is 6.28. So what's the difference? So you subtract it, 6.28 and the 5.5. We subtract that to get this value here. So 6.28 minus 5.5. Okay, subtract it, you can use your calculators. So that's going to be 0.78. So 0.78 is your reference. 100, wow. So the question is, how many times does 6.28 go into 100? So take your calculator and divide 100 by 6.28. 100 divided by 6.28. That's 15.92 times. Okay, so if I take 6.28 times 15, that gets me to 94.2. Okay, so let me get rid of this and show you that 94.2 is also the same thing as 6.28 if you go around 15 times. So now we're trying to get to 100. All right, so if I add another 6.28 one more time around the circle, I'm past 100. So let's take 94.2 plus the 4.71. So we're going around to the 270 degree mark. That gets us to 98.91. So how much more do we have to get to 100? That would be 1.09. So 1.09, sorry, it wants the reference angle. So if we go around 94.2 plus another 6.28, that's also 100.48. So that means 100 must be right here. So there's 0.48 left. All right, that was pretty difficult. All right, so let's get rid of some of that stuff. And we're at 6. So again, this is 6.28. So 0.28. So 6 would be right there. So 0.28 to get back to the x-axis. Negative 4. So again, we go this direction to negative 3.14. And if we do another 1.57, that's past negative 4. So negative 4 is about right here. So this, to get back to the x-axis, take 4 minus the 3.14. Okay, and that's going to give you 0.86. So 0.86 is your reference for B. And 4.5, so 3.14 and 1.57 is 4.71. So negative, I'm sorry, this is positive. Let's just erase and set this up again with a clean picture. So when you're doing this on your homework, it's good to just draw a circle each time. 4.5, so we're going positive. This is 4.71 here. So 4.5 is about right there. So what does it take to get back to the x-axis? So 4.5 minus the 3.14. That's 1.36. 1.36 is that reference. And then 80. So let's erase all this and do the 80 again. Let's put that 0.86 in the right spot. Okay, so now let's do the 80. So how many times does 6.28 go into 80? So 80 divided by 6.28, 12 times. So let's see what 13 times is. 13 times 6.28. So 13 times around gets us to 81.64. Okay, and remember, this is 1.57. If we take 81.64 minus 1.57, oops, 81.64 minus 1.57, that's going to be 80.07. So 80 must be right here. So what's it take to get back to there? Well, we got to figure out what that is. It's the 81.64 minus the 81.64 is all the way around. If we subtract 3.14 from that, so 81.64 minus 3.14 is going to be 78.5. So now we just take the difference between 78.5 and the 80.07. So 80, not just 80. 80 minus 78.5. That's going to be 1.5 to get back to the x-axis. Tough questions. Okay, so whenever you see the word exact value, the phrase, that means don't touch your calculator and give me the normal values of 1/2, square root of 2 over 2, and square root of 3 over 2. And aren't you glad you spent your time working on those things? Long leg, short leg, you even have your axis, like if you're on the x-axis or y-axis. But it helps if you know your references, okay? So we start off simple with 2 pi over 3, which is 120 degrees. You need to remember that. So the sign is the y value, which is the long leg, and x is the short leg there. So y is square root of 3 over 2, and it's positive. All right, now sign of negative 5 pi over 4. So we're going negative. So 1, 3, 5. So negative 5 pi over 4. So our reference, a reference is just a pi over 4, so both x and y are the same. So what is the y value? Positive square root of 2 over 2. Sine of 210, 210 degrees. So there's 180 plus 30 more. And again, the y value in this case is the short leg. So it's 1/2, but it's negative because you're in the third quadrant. 315, so 270 plus 45 more. So this is a 45-degree reference. So what is the y value? A negative square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 150. So we have the x value at 150. That's a 30-degree reference. Knowing your reference angles helps. It tells you what your long leg is and your short leg is. So cosine is the x value, which is the long leg. In this case, it's negative square root of 3 over 2. 60 degrees, negative 60 degrees. So we go negative 60, and the cosine is the short leg there, which is positive 1/2. 5 pi over 4, 1, 3, 5. So what is cosine? Cosine is the x value. It's in the left there, so it's negative square root of 2 over 2. And now the cosine of negative 11 pi over 6. That's almost all the way around. It's a pi over 6 reference. Cosine is the long leg, so square root of 3 over 2. Let's keep going. 5 pi over 6. Now tangent is y over x. So where are we? 5 pi over 6 is right there. The long leg is negative square root of 3 over 2. That's x. Y is the short leg, positive 1/2. So 1/2 over negative square root of 3 over 2. So that's 1 over the negative square root of 3. So that's going to be negative square root of 3 over 3 after you rationalize it. Please do so. Tangent of negative pi over 3. So again, y over x. So negative pi over 3. That's a negative 60-degree reference. So y is going to be the long leg of negative square root of 3 over 2. X is the short leg of positive 1 over 2. So this is negative square root of 3. 330 degrees. So all the way around, 330, and there's 30 degrees left. So x is the long leg, y is the short leg. Y over x is 1/2, negative 1/2 over positive square root of 3 over 2. So again, this is negative 1 over the square root of 3, which rationalizes to negative square root of 3 over 3. Negative 225. So 180 and 45 more. All right. So x and y are the same. So something over itself is 1, but you're in the second quadrant. X is negative and y is positive, which makes that a negative 1. Cotangent, 120. 120 is a 60-degree reference here. So that's the short leg and that's the long leg. And cotangent is x over y. X is negative 1/2, short leg. Y is positive square root of 3 over 2. So again, negative 1 over the square root of 3, which rationalizes to negative square root of 3 over 3. Cotangent of negative 150. Negative 150 has a 30-degree reference. So the x is the long leg and y is the short leg. X is over y, so negative square root of 3 over 2. Y is also negative, negative 1/2. Negative over negative is positive. Square root of 3 over 1 is just the square root of 3 is the answer. 3 pi over 4, so 1, 3. 3 pi over 4, so we have a pi over 4 reference. Cotangent again is x over y. And at pi over 4s, they're the same. Just to remind you what they are, square root 2 over 2 and square root 2 over 2. But x is negative and y is positive, so this is negative 1 for your answer. And negative 2 pi over 3 is negative 120, so it's a 60-degree reference. And x is the short leg, y is the long leg. X over y, negative 1/2. And the y is negative square root of 3 over 2. So we have a positive 1 over the square root of 3, which rationalizes to the square root of 3 over 3. Okay, let's keep going. 2 pi over 3. So 120. It's a 60-degree reference. X is your short leg, y is the long leg. Secant goes with cosine. So it's the reciprocal of the x value. So cosine would be negative 1/2. So the secant is going to be negative 2. Okay, again, secant. Negative pi over 6 is negative 30-degree reference. X is the long leg, y is the short leg. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So if the cosine is the square root of 3 over 2, we're going to say this is 2 over the square root of 3. We rationalize, and you get 2 square root of 3 over 3 for B. 135. So that is a 45-degree reference. So x and y are the same. And cosine is negative square root of 2 over 2. So the reciprocal of that is going to be negative 2 over the square root of 2. And again, just show the rationalization, negative 2 square root of 2 over 2. So this is negative square root of 2. Okay, now secant negative 210. So 180 and 30 more. So x is the long leg here. So negative square root of 3 over 2. But secant is the reciprocal. So again, that's negative 2 over the square root of 3. And the rationalization of that is going to be negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. 240 degrees is 180 and 60 more. So cosecant is the y value. So in this case, the y value is the long leg. So negative square root of 3 over 2, except it's the reciprocal for cosecant, so negative 2 over the square root of 3. And again, that comes out to negative 2 square root of 3 over 3 when you rationalize it. Cosecant of negative 330, so all the way around with a 30-degree reference angle left. So cosecant is the y value, the short leg, 1/2. So cosecant is the reciprocal, 2. All right, 18. Cosecant again is the y value, but the reciprocal, 3 pi over 4, 1, 3. Again, x and y are the same, so this is going to be a positive square root of 2 over 2, but the reciprocal is 2 over the square root of 2. When you rationalize it, you're just going to get 2. And the cosecant of 2 pi over 3. Sorry, negative 2 pi over 3. That's negative 120. And again, it's the y value, which is the long leg, which is square root of 3 over 2. And the third quadrant is negative. Cosecant is the reciprocal. So again, when you rationalize this, you get negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, so what we're doing here is approximating what the value is on your calculator, but you got to convert the 20 minutes and put everything in the right position, okay? So 20 minutes, first of all, you just divide those by 60 to get them in the decimal. So 20 divided by 60 is 0.3 repeating. So what it wants is the sine of 24.33 repeating degrees. So put your calculator in degree mode and take the sine of 24.33333, and you should get 0.412. So that's number 19. That was A. So B, the cosine of 0.68, now that's in radian mode. So put your calculator in radian mode and do the cosine of 0.68, and you get 0.778. So that's 3 decimal places. And the only way you could really do that without a calculator is there's no way you can guess the decimals. Okay, you can get close, but not even as close as what you need to be. So let's go on using our calculator. 20A, and it's silly to not use your calculator. I think I've already taught you how to do most of this stuff. So let's start using our calculators for these things. 88 degrees and 30 minutes. Again, take 30 divided by 60 is 0.5. So the cosine of 88.5. All right, so just to really show you how to approximate this without a calculator, 90 degrees, the cosine at 90 is going to be 0. The x value at 90 is 0. So when we're at 88.5, the cosine, the x value is going to be like 0.05 or 0.1 at the most. I think it's mostly going to be like 0.05. So let's put it in. This is degrees here. So the cosine of 88.5, make sure you change it back to degrees, so because I didn't. Cosine of 88.5 is actually 0.026. So it's very hard to even fathom getting 1 decimal place right, let alone 3. So we definitely are using our calculators on this. Now the sine of 1.48, this is radians, so change your calculator back to radians. And see, the sine of 1.48 is 0.996. On a graph here, remember this is 1.57. So 1.48 is about right here. And the y value at this point is 1. So that's why you're getting 0.996 when it's 1.48. You're really close to 1. All right, and then 21a, 73 degrees, so the tangent of 73 point, take 10 divided by 60, that's 1/6, which is 0.16 repeating. So take your tangent of that degree. Oops, again, you have to make sure you put it in degree mode because I keep forgetting. 73.16 repeating. The tangent of that is 3.305. All right, again, that's just hard to do without a calculator. B, cotangent of 1.13, put it in radian mode. And when you do this, just take the tangent of 1.13, okay? Because cotangent is the same thing as 1 over the tangent of 1.13. So take the tangent of 1.13 in radian mode, okay? And that gives you 2.11, blah, 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 blah. So there should be a key on your calculator that looks like this. If you hit that key, that flips it back over. Well, it takes 1 over that value on the screen, okay, which is what you want. So that actually is 0.472. That is the actual answer. Okay, so now you have cotangent, 22a, cotangent of 9 point, and 10 divided by 60 again is the 0.16 repeating. And this is degrees, so put it in degree mode. And go ahead and do the tangent of 9.16 repeating. 9.16 repeating tangent, okay, and you get the 0.1613667 blah blah blah, and then hit the 1 over the x key, and that tells you what the cotangent is, 6.197. B, tangent of 0.75, put it in degree mode or radian mode and do tangent of 0.75, and there's nothing to change here, so it's 0.932. 23a. 23a is the secant of 67, and 50 minutes, 50 divided by 60 is 0.83 repeating, and this is degrees. So we need to figure out secant. Secant goes with the cosine. So 1 over the cosine of 67.83 is the same thing. So hit 67 make sure you're in degree mode, 0.833333. Take the cosine of that, and then hit the 1 over the x button, and you get 2.650. And B, cosecant of 0.32 in radian mode. So that's the same thing as 1 over the sine of 0.32. So take the sine of 0.32, and that's going to be 1 over 0.3145, blah, 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 blah. Hit the 1 over x key, and your answer should be 3.179. Okay? And 24a, cosecant again of 43 point, take 40 divided by 60. It should be 0.6 repeating. This is in degrees. Cosecant goes with sine, so take 1 over the sine of 43.6 degrees. So now make sure you're in degree mode. Again, I keep forgetting this. Don't you do the same thing as me. 43.6 repeating. The sine of that is going to be 0.690, blah, blah, blah. Hit the 1 over x key, and the answer should be 1.448. And 24b, the secant of 0.26, put it in radian mode, and it's 1 over the cosine of 0.26, so take the cosine of 0.26, and you get, come on, 1 over 0.966, blah, blah, blah. Hit the 1 over x key, and it is 1.035. Okay, now we're at 25. Approximate the acute angle theta to the nearest 0.01 degree in 1 minute. All right, so we're working these backwards here. So where is the sine of theta equal to 0.42, or where does y equal 0.42? So here you want to do this, get theta by itself by moving the sine over there, which is called the arc sine or the inverse sine of 0.42. When you do this, this is the degrees here, okay? So 0.42 in degrees, if you take that, take second sine, second key, and hit sine of 0.42, and this gives you the degrees of 24.83. So just to check it, if you put 24.83 and hit the sine of that as degrees, you get 0.419927. Okay, this says to the nearest 0.01 degrees, to the nearest hundredth. So that's why we said 24.83. Now, it wants it to the nearest minute. So that was part A. Part B, what do? So what we do here for part B is we need to change the 0.83 back into minutes. So this will be 24 degrees. And how you do that is you multiply 0.83 times 60. So to get the decimal, we divide by 60. To get the actual minutes, we multiply by 60. And that gives me 49.8. And it's supposed to be to the nearest minute, so we're going to say 24 degrees, 50 minutes. All right, so 26a. So again, move the sign over by saying the arc sine of 0.6612. So 0.6612, take the arc sine of that. So second sine, 0.6612. Make sure you're in degree mode because we want degrees. So again, 0.6612, take the arc sine of 0.6612. And I get 41.39 degrees. Now we have to convert 39 degrees. So again, 41 degrees, take 0.39 times 60 and round it to the nearest whole number, which would be 23 minutes. To 23.4, so we leave it in that. Okay, so now 27, that was part B. 27a, theta is take the arc cosine of 0.8620. So 0.8620, the arc cosine, the second cosine of 0.8620 in degree mode is 30.46 degrees. And so we take 0.46 times 60, that's 27.6. So we're at 30 degrees and 28 minutes. 28, theta is the arc cosine of 0.8 in degree mode. So second cosine of 0.8 gives me 36.87 degrees. Change 0.87. So part B, we have 36 degrees, 0.87 times 60, and you get 52 minutes. That's how you work those out. 29A, the arc tangent of 3.7. So the arc tangent of 3.7 is 74.88 degrees. So 74 degrees, 0.88 times 60 is 53 minutes. 30 is the arc tangent of 4.91. So take the arc tangent 4.91. That's second tangent, by the way. That's 78.49 degrees. So 78 degrees and 0.49 times 60 is 29 minutes. And you get to 31A. The cotangent is the same thing as the reciprocal of 1 over tangent. So let's just call this the tangent of theta and take the reciprocal of 4, which is 1/4. That's the exact same thing as changing, instead of taking 1 over tangent and calling it cotangent, we take the reciprocal of the answer. So you can flip one of them over, but you got to change your trig function. So now what do? You take theta equals the arc tangent of 0.25. 1/4 is 0.25. So on your calculator, you do that and you get 14.04 degrees. So 14 degrees and 0.04 times 60 is 2.4, or 2 minutes. So we're just supposed to round it to the nearest minute. Okay, so now 32A, instead of cotangent, let's do tangent of theta equals 0.361, hit the 1 over x key for that, and you get 2.77008. Okay, so theta is going to be the arc tangent of that value, 2.77008. So if we take the arc tangent, second tangent of that, we get 70.15 degrees. Part B, 70 degrees, and 0.15 times 60 gives us 9 minutes. 33, secant. Again, instead of saying 1 over cosine, let's do the cosine, 33A. Let's say cosine of theta is equal to, take 4.246 and hit the 1 over x key, the reciprocal of that, which is 0.2355. All right, so you're going to take the arc cosine, negative 1 there, of 0.2355. So second cosine of that value is going to give you 76.38 degrees. So part B is 76 degrees, and 0.38 times 60 gives you 23 minutes. 34A, secant again is going to be the cosine, and take 1.15 and hit the 1 over x key, and that's going to be 0.869 ... So take the arc cosine of that value, so second cosine, and that gives you 29.59 degrees. So part B is 29 degrees. 0.59 times 60 gives you 35 minutes. Okay. 35A. Cosecant is the same thing as 1 over sine, so we're going to do the sine of theta equals 1 over 2.54. So instead of hitting 2.54 and hit the 1 over x key, if you didn't know how to do that, you can take 1 divided by 2.54. It's going to give you the same thing. So that's 0.3937, blah, blah, blah. So take the arc sine of that value, okay? So second sine, that gives me 23.18 degrees. Part B is 23 degrees, and 0.18 of 60 minutes is 11 minutes. 36a, cosecant again is the sine of theta, and do 1 over 11, or you just hit 11 and hit the 1 over x key. It's the same thing, 0.0909 repeating. So theta is the arc sine of 0.09 repeating. Second sine gives me 5.22 degrees. So B is 5 degrees, and 0.22 of 60 minutes is 13 minutes. All right, approximate to 4 decimal places. All right, we're in degree mode here. So we got to figure out what 10 minutes is. So part A is sine of 98 point, so 10 divided by 60 is 0.16 repeating. So we're going to take the sine of that. You're in degree mode, and that's going to be 0.98, 4 decimal places. So 0.9899 is that answer. Okay, so let's do the next one. So B is cosine of 623.7. Oh, it's already in decimal form. So just take the cosine of that, and that gives you negative 0.1097. Okay, and C is the tangent of 3. That's in radians. So if we put it in radian mode and just do the tangent of 3, in radian mode we get negative 0.1425. And D, so we're just taking the cotangent of 231.4, so cotangent 231, we have to put 40 minutes in decimal form, so 40 divided by 60 is 0.6 repeating. So now all you're going to do is take, 1 over the tangent of 231.6 degrees. Just take the tangent of 231.6 degrees and then hit the 1 over x key, and that puts that in the denominator, which makes this 0.7907. Okay, and E is secant. So again, that's the same thing as the 1 over the cosine of 1175.1 degrees. So first of all, just take the cosine of that. So the cosine of 1175.1 degrees and hit the 1 over x key, and you get negative 11.2493. And now F, cosecant is the same as 1 over the sine of 0.82. So that's in radian mode. Get in radian mode and do the sine of that, and then hit the 1 over x key. And that's 1.3677. Okay, 38. Okay, so now we're going to do just the sine of 496.4 degrees. So make sure you're in degree mode. And 496, the sine of 496.4, so that is going to give you 0.6896. So on B, we have the cosine of 0.65. That's in radian mode. So we need to put it in radian mode and do the cosine of 0.65. That's 0.7961. And C is the tangent 105 point. Again, divide that by 60. So 40 divided by 60 is the 0.6 repeating. And that's in degrees. So again, go back to degrees and do the tangent. Let's see here. Tangent of 105.6 repeating. And that's negative 3.5656. And now let's go to D. cotangent of 1030.2 degrees. All right, so we're already in degree mode, but we need to do tangent, so we're going to do 1 over tangent of 1030.2. So do 1000, tangent of 1030.2, and then you need to hit your 1 over x key, and that is negative 0.8451. And E is the secant of 1.46 in radian mode, so, and that's 1 over cosine. So 1 over the cosine of 1.46. So put it in radian mode, and you do cosine of 1.46, and then hit your 1 over x key, and that's 9.0441. And finally, F, the cosecant of 320 50 minutes, so 50 divided by 60 is going to be 0.83 repeating. Cosecant goes with sine, so it's 1 over the sine of 320.83 degrees. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode, and do the sine of 320.83 repeating, and then hit the 1 over the x key, and that gives you negative 1.5833. Okay, to the nearest 0.1 degree, all angles of the interval 0 to 360. All right, so now we're doing this backwards. So in A, you do the, and you got to move sine over, so that means the arc sine of negative 0.5640 in degrees. So make sure we are in degree mode. And you do the arc sine of negative 0.5640, and that gives you negative 34.3, negative 34.3 degrees. But it wants it from 0 to 360, so this has to be positive. So negative 34.3 degrees is what in the positive area? So just take 360 minus the 34. So 360 minus that answer, and you get, I did do it right. So 360 minus 34.3 be 325.7. Okay? And again, this is your the theta that gives you the y value. Well, remember, you have one over here too. So we can do 180 plus the 34.3, and that gives us 214.3. So if you take the sign of those values, and there's two possibilities. Okay, so now let's do the cosine of theta. So you're going to do the theta equals the arc cosine, 0.7490. So put that in your calculator. Second cosine, let's see, 0.7490 second cosine. And do that again. Make sure you are in degree mode. And that is 41.5 degrees. All right, C is the arc tangent of 2.798. So 2.798, you take the arc tangent of that, and you get 70.3 degrees. And D, we get into the reciprocals here, negative 0.9601. You take the arc tangent of 1 over negative 0.9601. So when you do that, theta becomes negative 46.2. Okay, so it wants it in the positives. Remember, you have to follow what the instructions are. It wants the positive. So where are we? Negative 46 is about negative 45. Okay, think of it that way. So this should be very close to 315, right? So how do we figure out exactly what it is? Well, we take 360 and we add or subtract 46.2. So 360 minus 46.2, and that gives us the 313.8 degrees. All right, so this is the tangent. Where else is the tangent negative? Well, 180 degrees the other way. Cotangent as well, okay? So again, if this is 46.2, then this is 46.2. And what we need to know is, what is that degree? So if we take 180 minus the 46.2, we'll get 133.8. So in both these instances, that's what you get. And you have to look at the others. I forgot to do these two. So let's go up and do B. You're at 41.5, all right? So this is the cosine, the x value, okay? So where else is it that value? Well, you take it straight down. That's also the cosine value. X is both these values in the first and fourth quadrant. So we got to take 360 and subtract the 41.5 to get what this is here. So 360 minus 41.5, and we get 318.5. So sorry, I forgot to do that. Did it on the first one, forgot to do it on these other ones. All right, C, you're at 70.3 degrees. So you're right there. And tangent again is 180 degree directions. So if that's 70.3, then this is 70.3. So we add 180 plus 70, 180 plus 70.3, and you get 250.3. So you have those two answers right there. Okay, so let me erase some of this and we'll do E. So pause it if you don't want to miss any of this. All right, so let's go ahead and do E. E is a secant again. Secant of theta is negative 1.116. So secant goes with cosine. So if we just say cosine instead of 1 over cosine, then that means we got to take the reciprocal of the other side. Okay, that's how you know what you're doing. Okay, so theta is going to be the arc cosine of whatever we get for that value there. So 1 divided by negative 1.116, and that's negative 0.8960, blah, 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 blah. Take this arc cosine of that, and you get 153.6 degrees. So that's right here, and it's the cosine that we're dealing with. So that's the x value, which means it's also right there. So if we take 360 and subtract 153.6, we get 206. That would be from here to there. 206.4 degrees. So those are the two answers for E. And now F is the cosecant of theta. So we're going to, instead of saying 1 over sine, we'll say sine of theta, and we'll do 1 over the 1.485. Okay, and so now theta is the arc sine of whatever we get for that. So 1 divided by 1.485 is 0.6734. So the arc sine of that, oops, hit the wrong button. 1 divided by 1.485. And now we take the arc sine of that and we get 42.3 degrees. Now this is the sine value. So there's 42.3 degrees. And the sine is the y value. So the up and down part of it. So it's the same here and there. So how do we get that? Well, we can take 180 and minus the 42.3. So these are references that we see here. So 180 minus 42.3. And that's 137.7 degrees. So those are the two answers for F. Okay, do that all over again. So A, theta is the arc sine of 0.8225. So 0.8225, take the arc sine of that, and you get 55.3 degrees. 55.3 degrees, this is the y value. So on the circle, the y value is the same over there. So we take 180 minus the 55.3 to figure out what that is. And you get 262.4. So those are the two answers for A. B, we want the x value. So theta is the arc cosine of negative 0.6604. Oops, hold on. And the arc cosine is 131.3 degrees. So 131. And that's the x value here. And also right there will give you the same x value. So we need to go this direction, 131 degrees. So 360 minus 131.3 is 228.7 degrees. All right, B, the arc C. C is, theta is the arc tangent of negative 1.5214. See, 1.5214 negative, and we're taking the arc tangent of that. So that's negative 56.7 degrees. Negative 56. So, and tangent is 180 degrees on your circle where you get these values. So first of all, what is the negative 56.7? Take 360 minus the 56.7. You're going to get all the way around is 303.3 degrees. So the question then is, what is that value? Okay, so if we go backwards, 180 plus 56.7, 180 plus 56.7, that gives us the 236.7. So those are the two values where you get negative 1.5214. Okay, and then D, cotangent or 1 over the tangent. So instead of 1 over the tangent, we'll do the arc tangent of 1 over 1.3752. Oops. So 1 divided by 1.3752, and take the arc tangent of it. You get 36 degrees, 36.0 degrees. There's 36. It's also a 180 degree difference, so that's 36 there. So our first one's 36, and the second one would be 180 plus 36, or 216. All right, let me erase some of this. So pause it if you need to see this. And now we'll do E and F. Theta is, secant goes with cosine, so instead of saying 1 over cosine, we'll do 1 over 1.4291. So 1 divided by 1.4291, and take the cosine of that, arc cosine, you get 45.6 degrees. So, and a cosine is the x value. So here's x. X is the same in both those positions. So if that's 45.6, this is 45.6. So how do we get that? Take 360 minus 45.6, and you get 314.4. All the way around to there is 314.4 degrees. Now F, cosecant goes with sine, so instead of saying 1 over sine, we will say 1 over negative 2.3179. So use your calculator, 1 divided by a negative 2.3179, and you get a negative 0.431, blah, blah, blah. Take the arc sine of that, and you get negative 25.6 degrees. So negative 25.6 degrees. And we want the y value. So this is our y value here, which is the same over there. So those two values. How do we get those? Well, 360 minus the 25.5 or 0.6, and you get 334.4 degrees. And then how do you get to here? You take 180 plus the 25.6, and you get 205.6 degrees. All right, so that's all of those. Almost done. So now we're using radians, so make sure your calculator is in radian mode. We're going to do the exact same thing we've been doing. Okay, so theta is the arc sine of 0.4195. Now we're going between 0 and 2 pi again, same stuff. So the arc sine of 0.4195, in radians, that's 0.43. And we're going to go to the nearest hundredths. So again, 0.43 radians. But you have to watch. Where are you? Remember, this is 3.14. This is 1.57. So 0.43 is about like right there. Okay. And it's the y value. All right. That's the y value. Well, it's the same over here. So if this is 0.43, this is 0.43. And how do we get from here to there? Take 3.14 and subtract your 0.43. Or you can use the pi button, and that's a little more accurate. And that gives you 2.71. So those are the two values you get for part A. Part B, take the arc cosine of negative 0.1207. And you get 1.69. We're in radian mode. 1.69 is going to be just past the 1.57. Okay, so what is the arc cosine? That was the arc cosine, 1.69. So this is x. All right, so the x value also right there. So how do we get to there? Well, that's negative 1.69 to go this direction to get to there. So you take 2 pi. Okay, so 2 times pi. And then you subtract 1.69 from it, and you get 4.59. So there's your two radian measurements. Now C is the arc tangent of negative 3.2504. 3.2504, it's negative. Take the arc tangent, and that's negative 1.27. So again, this would be going this direction is negative 1.57 here. So negative 1.27 is right there. So what is that if we went around this direction? So you're going to take 6.28 and subtract 1.27. And all the way around would be 5.01 on the positive side. But this is a tangent, so you also have a 180 degree position on the other side. So again, negative 1.27 was right here, so this is 1.27 this direction. So you take pi and subtract 1.27, and that'll give you the positive part, which is 1.87. So those are the two values for C. And D, we get into, again, the reciprocals. So theta is the arc tangent of the reciprocal of this, 1 over 2.6815. So figure out what that is. 2.6815, 1 divided by that, and then you take the arc tangent of that, and that's 0.36. So 0.36 again is about right there. It's tangent, so it's 180 degrees different. So that's 0.36. That's 0.36. So 0.36 is the first one. We take 3.14 and add 0.36, and we get 3.5. All right, so those are the two values for D. Let's erase this and do E and F. Okay, so now we're doing the radians. Make sure your calculator is in radian mode. And again, part A here, we're doing the arc sine 0.4195 in radians. And again, we want from 0 to 2 pi. So 0.4195, and do the arc sine of that, and we get 0.43. So we want to the hundredths places, so 0.43. So where is that at 0.43 for on the y-axis? And I'm not on the y-axis. This is 1.57 radians. So 0.43 is over here somewhere, and we're looking for the y. So that's the y value in both of those positions, or that's your radian measure right there, so 0.43. So how do we get that? So the first one is 0.43, and the other one is 3.14 minus the 0.43. That's how we get there. All right, so you can take pi minus the 0.43 if you want. That's 2.71. All right, and B, we take the arc cosine of negative 0.1207. So 0.1207 negative, and arc cosine of that, and that's 1.69. Okay, so again, 1.57 is at the top, 1.69 is just past that. So that's the first one, and this is the x value here. So that means here's the other one where the x value gives us the same amount going the other direction. All right, so that would be, how do we get to there? We take 6.28 and we subtract the 1.69. And we get 4.59. So that is the other one for B. Now C is the tangent, so we're going to do the arc tangent of negative 3.2504. 3.2504, and the arc tangent is going to be negative 1.27. So again, tangent, negative 1.27, so go in this direction, this is negative 1.57. So negative 1.27 is about right there. All right, and we want the tangent, which we got to go all the way around to get there. So, or we could take 6.28 minus the 1.27. So 6.28 minus 1.27 gives us 5.01. So that's the first part. So the other part of the tangent is 180 degrees the other way. So how do we get that? All right, so that would be, this part is 1.27. It's 1.27 from the x-axis, so it's 1.27 from the x-axis going this way. So take 3.14 and we subtract 1.27. 3.14 minus 1.27. And that gives us 1.87. So it's 1.87 to get there, going positive. All right. D is cotangent. Now we got to do the reciprocal. So we're going to take the arc tangent of the reciprocal of 2.6815. So we got to do 1 divided by 2.6815. And that's 0.3729, blah, blah, blah. So take the arc tangent of that. And that gives us 0.36. So 0.36 is about right there. Okay. That's 0.36. And again, radian is the distance around the arc. And tangent again, so it's going to be the other direction. So this little bit right here is 0.36. So how do we get to that from 0? We got to do 3.14 plus the 0.36. So that's going to be 3.50. So those are your two values for D. Let me erase some of these. And let's do E and F. Secant is the same as cosine. So arc cosine of 1 over 1.7452. So 1 divided by 1.7452, that's 0.57. Let's see here, 1 divided by 1.7452. And then we take the arc cosine of that, and that gives us 0.96. All right, so 0.96, this is 1.57, so on the unit circle, 0.96 is about right there. So this is 0.96. That's the first value. And cosine, we're doing the x. So this is the x value. So that's the same value there. So how do we get to there? we got to go all the way around to that point. So how do we get that? We just take 6.28 and we minus the 0.96 that's right here. 6.28 minus 0.96. And we get 5.32. So that's the other value for E. And now F, cosecant goes with sine, so the arc sine of 1 over negative 4.8521. Okay, and we take the arc sine of that and we get negative 0.20758, so negative 0.21. So we go here, 0.21, okay? So 6.28 minus that, 6.28 minus 0.21, and we get 6.07. All right, so again, you got to make sure you're in radian mode when you do these things, when you're in radians, okay? So the question now is, what is the other function? This is the y value, so you have to go all the way over to the y. This is y here. And what is that value? So from here to there, okay? Okay, so this much right here is 0.21, so this much is 0.21 as well. So all we have to do is take 3.14 plus the 0.21. 3.14 plus 0.21. And that's 3.35. So 6.07 and 3.35. All right, the last one. We made it. So the arc sine of negative 0.0135. So that's going to be negative 0.01. All right, so negative 0.01 is going to be really small. All right, and again, it's the y value, so it's going to be these two values. So this is 0.01 distance. This is 0.01. But to get what this really is 3.14 plus that. So 3.14 plus 0.01. That's 0.01 and 3.15. All right, B, the arc cosine of 0.9235. So 0.9235, arc cosine, that gives us a radian measurement of 0.39. So 0.39 is right there. And this is the x value, so that's x. So x is the same at that position. So you cross the x-axis for cosine, you cross the y-axis for sine. All right, so now this is also 0.39, but it's negative. So we got to go all the way around to there. So how do we get that? We take 6.28 minus the 0.39, and you get 5.89. So those are your two values. Now we go to C. Arc tangent of 0.42. So 0.42 arc tangent. That gives us 0.3976 or 0.40. So 0.40 is about right there. And it's tangent, so it's 180 degrees, same in the other direction. So this is 0.40. So 0.40 is the first one. How do we get to there? We do 3.14 plus 0.40, and we get 3.54. And now D, the reciprocal, so the arc tangent of 1 over negative 2.731. So 1 divided by 2.731 negative, and that's negative 0.366, so you take the arc tangent of that, and you get negative 0.35. So it's going to be down here, that's 0.35 units. So what is that all the way around? You take 6.28 minus it. 6.28 minus 0.35, you get 5.93. That's the first one. And it's tangent, so it's going to be 180 degrees the other direction. And again, this is 0.35, this little distance here. So how do we get that? If you take 3.14 minus that, 3.14 minus 0.35, we get 2.79. That's what it takes to get from here 0 to there. So those are your two values. Let me erase these and do E and F. Well, E is secant, so it goes with cosine. So the arc cosine of the reciprocal. Okay, so 1 divided by 3.51, that's negative 0.28. And then you take the cosine, arc cosine of that, you get 1.86. So this is 1.57, so on the unit circle, you're about right there. So that's from here, 0 to there is 1.86, okay? But it's the x value, so we're going to cross the x value, the x-axis, because it's the same at this position. Well, how do we get that? Well, this part right here is 1.86, and so is this. So if we take 6.28 and subtract 1.86, we will get from 0 to that point, which is 4.42. All right, so 1.86 and 4.42. Now f is the sine, 1 over sine, so let's do the arc sine of 1 over 1.258. Excuse me. 1 divided by 1.258 is 0.7949, so take the arc sine of that, and you get 0.92. Again, the top at the unit circle is 1.57, so 0.92 is about right there. So this value, this distance, radian measurement, is 0.92. That's the first value. And it's the sine, so we're talking about y, so we got to cross the y-axis. The y value there, the radian there, is going to be the same. So from 0 to that point. So this is also 0.92. So how do we get from 0 to the blue line there? We take 3.14 minus the 0.92, and you get 2.22, and that is the other value. And that's it for your homework. Good job.